At this point, we're going to move on according to our agenda, and we have the Student Advisory Council presentation, and Lee Savage is going to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited that the Student Advisory Council can kind of get us moving this morning. Just take a seat. Yep, behind. So I'm Lee Savage, and I'm the coordinator of the state's Student Advisory Council. And we have 8 women on the council, 5 of whom are able to participate today. You'll see 4. And one submitted a video presentation because she's up at Michigan Tech, and she had 4 classes on Friday. She was going to try to come down, but they take mandatory attendance, so she was like, it's not a good idea. So a little bit about the Student Advisory Council as they're getting started. 4 years ago, we started, the state board and I started working to get the Student Advisory Council up and going. And this is our 3rd year. And so I'm really excited for these students because they have put together an excellent presentation on his and hers majors. And question, is everything all set? Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to pass the microphones off. I will say our 3 that aren't here today are Jasmine, Vidya, and Isabella. And they're going to introduce themselves as part of the presentation on his and hers majors. If you want to know a little bit more background about the Student Advisory Council and all their pictures and bios, it is on the AAUWMI.org website, so please check that out. They will have their presentation, and then we do have some time for Q&A afterwards, so you can ask them questions.
Hello everyone, how are you doing?
Good morning.
Alright, so this is called His and Her Majors, the gender disparity of college majors. The girls and I have been talking about how we noticed that there is certain areas in academics aren't really divided evenly between male and female students. And we talked about how there's like a gender binary in our culture and how it sometimes leads men and women to pick certain majors that quote-unquote fit their gender. Sometimes when people step outside of those expectations, such as a woman entering a STEM field, they can face unnecessary hurdles such as sexism. And today we'd like to share a little bit about ourselves, about the institutions where we study, and our experiences with gender majors. Some of us have quote-unquote conformed, and some of us have gone against expectations. One thing we would like to keep in mind is that if someone picks a major that fits their gender, are they conforming to social norms? That's something that we would like to talk about here today. Oops. Okay. And while we throughout our presentation, we're all going to make some references to feminism, and we would like to just acknowledge for a moment that everyone has their own definition of feminism. It's a very powerful word that has grown a lot over the years, and it means something different to everyone. And this is the very basic textbook dictionary definition of feminism, which I think we should just put up there just to have an idea of where we're coming from. So my name is Anna Palm. I'm a grad student from Oakland University. We decided to put up a fun picture here. This is me in my uniform. I'm a martial artist. I have a green belt. I'm actually working on my blue belt right now. And it's something I started with my mom. She is also a green belt. She can really kick butt. And yeah, she's in her 50s and she can kick butt. It's awesome. And I got my BA at Central Michigan.
Bunch of chips.
Partnerships, yeah. And I earned it in creative writing and journalism, and right now I'm studying communications with a focus on media studies. And when I say media studies, people's eyes glaze over, so I'm just going to explain what that is. It's basically, I look at various media forms like social media, advertising, the news, and I try to interpret their messages and see what they mean, and see what kind of cultural, social, or political implications that they carry. And when people ask me why I bother with that, you know, because it's just media, whatever, I tell them that, well, what is out there, you know, whatever you see on television will affect you one way or another. It might question your, challenge your opinions or reshape your perspective. And I believe that people and media are now so closely connected that it's impossible to not look at an image and feel something, or and maybe respond to it. And right now there's just so much noise out there, I'm trying to make sense of it. And actually, once I've earned my master's, I would like to continue my research and publish books and articles. Now, in the professional field of communication, it has originally been dominated by men, but now it's mostly women. I talked about this with my professor, Valerie Palmer-Mehta, who's our director and also an AAUW member. She said that in academic field, it might not be female-dominated, but it definitely is in the professional field. I pulled this up from the National Public Records from 2014. They show here that in 1970, like 30% of the communication undergrads were women, and it rose steadily over the years till in 2010. The percentage of women taking undergrad communication classes were in the 60s. And, you know, this is information that didn't shock me when I did my research, because that's the kind of demographic I see at Oakland. Most of the faculty and the students in communication are women. And Dr. Palmer told me that out of all the full-time professors at Oakland, the communication full-time professors, which is the highest rank you can earn, 2 out of 3 are women. So, and I think that's pretty awesome. And she also said that our chief advisor is a woman, but our chair person right now is actually a guy. But she pointed out to me that before he took over, there were at least 15 years of female-dominated leadership. Like, there were 2 women who were the chairperson before him. And I also looked at OU's enrollment history. The year before I enrolled, which is 2015, there were 23 students in the communication master's program. 18 of those were women. And well, I've been in Oakland. I've been in the program for a year now, and most of the time it's been ladies only. And it's even funnier when there are guys teaching the class, because there was one professor who said, "Yeah, I tell my wife, yeah, I spend every Tuesday night I'm in a room full of women." And anyway, it's either been ladies only or mostly women and 1 and 2 guys. And this year we have 3. So we're like, yay, 1 more! And it's in feminist rhetorical studies, of all things, too. So like, yeah, you're so great. And what's ironic about communication, that most of the time you read work by men, or you read speeches by great men. And what's great, though, is communication scholars are working towards changing the literature by restoring segments of history of women, people of color, and non-Christians that have been silenced and forgotten. You sort of, the goal is to break the assumption that those groups of people haven't done anything until recently. It's just that their contributions to the literature just hasn't been recorded, and that's something that people are working to change. For example, oh, I forgot to use the slides. Okay, there you go. There. So for example, in 1989, Caroline Campbell published a book called Man Cannot Speak for Her, and that's when she talked about all the contributions that women, she wrote about the first wave movement, women's movement, which started from 1830s till 1920. And she talks about what women did to earn the right to vote. And it actually started with, it's a long history of how they fought for their rights. And the limitation, unfortunately, with that book is that her focus is on white, middle-class Christian women. She talks a little bit about women of color, but it doesn't really, cover everybody. Luckily, this year, a woman named Brittany Cooper, she wrote a book called Beyond Respectability, the Intellectual Thought of Race Women. And there she really fills the gap in the literature about what African American women did to contribute to our intellectual and rhetorical history. And I think that's really great. I still have to read it, so it's on my reading list. And again, the goal is enlightenment. It's about to break assumptions about certain groups of people and to acknowledge their contribution to both the academic field and to our society. So something changed. Okay. So with this in mind, with the communication history and the field today being such a juxtaposition, you're probably wondering, well, what made communication suddenly feminine? Well, it's gender stereotypes. For example, so I read this article from The Atlantic in 2014, and they explored why there are so many women in public relations. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 63% of the PR specialists at the time were made up by women, and 59% of the women of the people who were PR managers were also women. So it's a heavily female-dominated field. And she found that the gender stereotypes play a part in enforcing the idea that PR and communication is a feminine type of work. For example, the one stereotype is that women are better at communicating than men. And it's due to cultural, I talked about this with my professor, and she said it was due to cultural conditioning. Like, we are trained to respond better to emotional and personal needs. Meanwhile, men are encouraged to be more independent and competitive and to not really worry about everyone else. And we're also trained to, we're seen to talk more because our culture also promotes the power of the strong silent type, the strong silent man. So in comparison, women are seen as very blabbermouths, and that's why we're pushed into communication. Women also are better working with other people, but we're trained to get along with others, while men are encouraged to work on their own, and even receive the cultural support to do that. It's actually an American, my professor said it's sort of like an American idea, like we love individualism, so when we see one person pursue something on their own, it's well thought of. So I would like to say that, I do love to communicate, I love to work on teams, but I also like being the boss. And it's like, so yes, I'm conforming to certain social norms by being feminine, but it's like in Jurassic World when Claire went through the entire movie running in heels, you make it work. So, and I think communication is really, really empowering. Conforming is not a weakness. It doesn't mean routine. Being feminine doesn't mean locking yourself in a cage. I'm actually using my work as tools of empowerment and consciousness raising. And I would like to actually study, my focus is feminist media studies. So my focus is, which is like a communication, marriage between communication and women's studies. And I kind of, the goals that I have in mind is, promoting the idea that, the idea of learning for social change and action, and to change the social construction of knowledge, and also to not even question this woman's place in society, but also, asking men to acknowledge the patriarchy is a system that limits their range of emotions and experience, because God forbid a man should cry in public or express anything other than determination and toughness. And actually, before I turn it over to my colleague, I'm actually working on a thesis where I actually examine the change, the new masculinity, where I look at the new portrayal of superhero masculinity on screen. And the question that I want to answer with this work and other kinds of research is, how does the new masculinity change gender relations in our society? So, thank you.